My grandfather, fearing that he would outlive me, divided my 180-year lifespan among 5 dying men, leaving me with only 20 years to live. If we didn't do this, our entire family wouldn't survive the night. So Grandpa spent the entire night searching and finally found 5 dying people at 2:30 in the morning. Using the secret art of feng shui, he lent them my life. Each person borrowed 20 years, and after 20 years, I only needed to retrieve my life back. If I got one back, I'd live 20 years longer. If I got all 5 back, I'd have 100 more years. For 20 years, the families of those who borrowed my life prospered. Businesses flourished, and those in public service rose to the top. However, Grandpa warned me not to retrieve all 100 years. He said that if I could get back 60 years, I should stop. Despite lending out my life, Grandpa paid a great price. 2.5 days later, his body began to decay, and he died a terrible death. Before he passed, Grandpa told me one thing. John, our family's secret feng shui technique must not be passed on to others. If you get married and have children, pass it on to your son. If you stay single, take this secret with you to the grave. If anyone tries to steal it, even if they beat you to death, don't give it to them. With those words, Grandpa died. After burying my grandfather, I took the magic weapon he left me and left the mountain where I had lived for 18 years. After 2.5 years of careful calculations, I chose the Johnson family in Springfield, Massachusetts, as my first target. My 20th birthday was in 3 days, but whether I'd live to see it depended on the circumstances. When I arrived at the Johnsons' gate, I knew Old Man Johnson's secrets better than anyone. He was celebrating his 70th birthday that day, thanks to the 20 years of life I had lent him. As I tried to enter, a guard stopped me, asking if I had an invitation. I shook my head. No, but tell Mr. Johnson that I'm the descendant of the Wu family. I've come to reclaim something that's been held for 20 years. The guard gave me a puzzled look, clearly unfamiliar with the Wu family. When he hesitated, my temper flared. Go now. If you delay my business, I won't be finished with you. My outburst scared him, and he hurried off to report the situation. Inside, the compound was lively. 4 tables were set up, with the Johnson family and their wealthy friends from Boston. The guard approached Johnson's eldest son, David, and whispered something in his ear. David frowned, then walked towards the gate. As soon as he saw me, he yelled, "Get out of here, punk!" I pointed at the guard. David, he might not know the Wu family, but you should. I'm here to take back what's mine. Let's part peacefully, or there will be blood. David's face twisted with anger. Are you itching for a fight, kid? How dare you curse my family? I'll have you arrested. At that moment, an elderly man, followed by a curious crowd, approached. David forced a smile. Dad, it's nothing. Just some troublemaker. I'll have him thrown out. I stepped forward, staring into the old man's eyes. Mr. Johnson, do you remember the Wu family? The old man's eyes widened. You're John Wu? I nodded. Yes, I am. The elder beside him, a middle-aged man with a similar demeanor, spoke up. We don't care why you're here, but not today. Either leave now, or we'll have you thrown in jail. David's eldest daughter, Emily, glared at me. Today is my grandfather's 70th birthday. If you're here to celebrate, we welcome you. If not, get out. Is this how the Johnsons treat their guests? I came here today to reclaim my life. If you deny me, I have my ways of taking it back, I declared in front of the crowd. My words shocked everyone. Emily's face darkened. You're insane. How dare you disrespect my grandfather? She aimed a kick at my chest, but before she could strike, the old man intervened. Enough, Emily. I knew this day would come. Mr. Johnson shook his head, his face filled with reluctance. I knew this day would come, he repeated. Yes or no, Mr. Johnson? I asked. If I don't get my life back, I won't live past my 20th birthday. David pulled out his phone and called for help. This punk has disrupted our celebration. I don't care who he is. Get him out of here. Seeing David's hostility, my temper flared again. I raised my hand, and with a rumbling sound, a black coffin flew over and landed in the Johnsons' compound. A gust of wind swept through, chilling everyone to the bone. The wind coalesced into 4 ghostly figures who knelt before me in gratitude. I nodded at them, and they vanished, leaving the coffin behind. Guests, frightened by the ominous scene, quickly fled, leaving only the Johnson family and a few close relatives behind. Emily, enraged, tried to attack me again, but I easily deflected her, sending her crashing into the coffin. I brushed the dust from my hands. With a temper like that, no wonder you're still single. Emily, tough as nails, got back up and charged at me again. David reached for something at his waist, his eyes filled with anger. I instinctively stepped back. A gun? I thought. If David had a gun, even my martial arts skills wouldn't save me. A gun is deadly, especially at close range. Enough. Mr. Johnson's voice cut through the tension. There will be no more violence. John, I've told you that this day would come. Over the past 20 years, our family has risen from nothing to where we are now, all thanks to you. If it weren't for the 20 years of life you lent me, I wouldn't be here today. I was dying of cancer back then, with less than a month to live. David, still unconvinced, grumbled, "If that's the case, why bother working hard? We could just pray to God and be done with it." "David," Mr. Johnson snapped, "if it weren't for John, I wouldn't have lived to see this day. Our family owes everything to him." Emily, still defiant, spat, "This guy is just a con artist trying to scam us." I glared at her. "You think I'm bluffing? Your calf has been feeling cold lately, especially at night, hasn't it? That's because there's a vengeful spirit clinging to you." The room fell silent as everyone stared at me. Emily's bravado faltered. "How did you know that?" she whispered.